Welcome back everybody, this is Awais back with another video on the channel. Today I'm presenting you Django Rest Framework crash course. We're going to be creating authentication system, which means people can log in, register themselves. Also we're going to be learning how we can use a custom user model. So if you want to have a custom form for your users, you can do that as well. And also we're going to be making sure that we create a couple of endpoints which are restricted to only members or user who are logged in. For testing our APIs, we're going to be using Postman, which is a great free utility which you can use to test the APIs. So without further ado, let's get started with Django Rest Framework. Okay, so first of all, we're going to have to create a project. So for that, I'm going to be using a terminal. If you're on Windows, open command prompt. The first thing you need to check whether you have Python installed or not. So I'm going to check Python 3 space dash dash version. I have 3.7.4. I don't want to clutter my global Python installation. So for that, I'm going to be creating a virtual environment. For that, we use conda. So I'm going to use conda create dash dash name, and we can just say demo, and I'll use the Python version equal to 3.7. Now it's going to create a demo virtual environment for us. It's asking me that it's going to install these packages. I'll type Y. And yes, the packages are getting installed. Now to activate demo, I'm going to use conda activate demo. So we have a virtual environment up and running now. For just a reference, I'm going to use conda.io website, and here you can go and download conda. Or if you can use, if you want to use virtual env, which comes with Python, that's up to you. But I use conda; it's just much easier. Great documentation there as well. Okay, so we have terminal. Now, how do we create a project? Let me zoom in a bit for you guys. Now, we're going to be using pip to install Django. Let me just bring up the website on the right so I can show you what's the main framework that Django Rest Framework comes from, which is djangoproject.com. This is the website. There's a 2.24 version available for us to use. So I'm going to use pip install Django. Now it's downloading Django for us. A lot of lines. Okay, so Django has been installed. Now we're going to be checking whether Django is installed. So I'm going to type django-admin space version. Here we have a Django version 2.2.4 installed. The next up, we're going to be installing Rest Framework. So here you can go to tutorial and click on quick start, and it'll show you how to install it. So this is the name that I wanted to copy. So I'll type pip install paste. It's going to install Django Rest Framework as well. Now, both of the frameworks are installed. One thing that I would like to do is create a requirements.txt file. So if I want to install Django or Django Rest Framework again, I could do it very easily. For that, I'll use touch requirements.txt file, and then I'll do pip freeze this greater than equal sign, and then use requirement. That's it. Then we can use cat command and see what's in the requirement.txt file. So here we have certify, Django Rest Framework, PyT, and SQL parser. So these are the packages installed in our virtual environment. Now it's time for us to create a new project using Django and Django Rest Framework. So I'll be using a utility which gets installed from Django, which is django-admin. For that, we'll go to desktop. So I'm going to type cd. Now I'm in a desktop. So let's create a new project using Django-admin, and the command for that is start project. Okay, I'll use start project command, and I will name the project API. All right, I'm gonna go to desktop. Let's close this Finder. Let's here we have the folder which we just created. Now we got this API, and another thing that we want to create is an app. So Django has a concept of creating reusable apps that you can, create. For example, you need authentication system for your, web app. you might need the same authentication system for your next project, so you don't have to write the authentication system again. You can create a separate app for that, and you can just plug and play that app. For that, I'm going to cd into API folder, and here I have this manage, which is like a setting file for your Django project and the project API itself. Now within this folder, we're going to use Django admin command start app, and then we can call it auth. Okay, that's done. Now I'm going to take you to the desktop. Here's the folder. We have auth app and API app. Let's close this folder. For my general projects, I use Python Professional, but just because you guys might not have Python Professional, so I'm just going to use a free most famous IDE, or you can call it text editor, VS Code. So we'll use this one, make it easy for everybody. So I'm just going to open the folder, going to go to desktop and open this folder there. All right, so we got this idea folder. I'm going to delete that. Okay, now we got manage.py file, auth app, and then API itself. So I'm going to open terminal by pressing command and tilde sign. And here I'm going to do conda activate demo. Okay, so we got Python installation done. So if I check Django-admin version, so I can see I have a Django there now. And also we're in the project. So let's do a bit of tour of our project. So here's a manage.py file, which is like a configuration file for your project. It tells Django setting module would be api.settings file, which is here. That's your all, this is your basically settings for your whole project. So yeah, mostly what you want to do is you want to make sure that debug is true if you want to see that nice app. So I'm going to go to settings.py file, and I'm going to inside the install app, I'm going to install another app called auth. Now this basically will come from this auth folder and apps.py file. So to plug the app into your main project, you're going to have to use this name. You go to the app, and then you go to the apps.py file, and here you find the name. Cool. We're going to check our URLs as well. That's all good now. So I'm going to use the command python manage run server. And for some reason, it's giving me some error. It's an application label orange unique duplicates auth. To fix this, basically it's telling me the auth app is duplicated. So what we need to do is go to the auth folder, right click on rename, and I'm going to name this auth app. And also we're going to go to apps.py file and change this to auth app. And then we're going to have to go to settings. And in settings, we need to change auth to auth app. Let's save everything. And now when I save everything, it actually goes and start the server. So let's verify this within this browser page. So we're going to go to localhost 8000. And there you go. Here we have our Django project running. Now, the reason why you're seeing this nice app is because debug is set to true. So if you look at debug is equal to true, and we set that to false, and then it will just break for now. And I'm gonna restart the server by going to Python manage run server. And you can say you must set allowed house if debug is false. Now what is allowed house? Basically, allowed house will tell the server that, hey, I'm only expecting API calls from this particular IP address or this particular URL. So we can say mysite.com. So only my site will be able to hit the API request to this. But we're going to be using this steric, which means that anywhere from the world you can just, send API request here. So I'll do Python manage run server. Our server is running. We refresh the page, and now it says no resources found in this server. The reason why is because our debug is off and we don't have any resources. Now when you create a new project, you get to see a message saying you have 17 unapplied migrations. Your project may not work properly. The reason why Django by default have a database of SQLite 3, and that basically migration command will run the migration and creates all your tables in your database. I expect you to already know this because this crash course is Django Rest Framework with authentication. It's not a crash course for Django. So these are the basic concepts that you need to know already when you're watching this video. So what we need to do is run migration. So for that, we're going to use Python manage make migrations command. And it says no changes detected. Well, that's fine. So use Python manage, and we're going to use make migrations for our auth app. So I'll type auth app. Now it's saying, oh, no changes detected in auth app as well. So that's good. And we're going to be using Python manage migrate command. Oop, not migrate, but migrate command. Now this time it applied some migration, and our database is like basically have some tables and columns now. So let's run Python manage run server command. Our server is running and we don't see that error anymore. Now our server is running at localhost 8000. I'm gonna go there, refresh the page. I don't see any resources on the server on that endpoint. So we're gonna create an endpoint. For that, I'm gonna go to urls.py file, and here we have one endpoint. Let's try hitting that one. So if I type /admin and I get to this page, so here we can log in as a super user. Just to show you guys, this is how you can create a super user. So I'm gonna paste a command on a terminal that says Python manage create super user is a command -- email. You type the email, username, and then after that, it's going to ask you for the password. So I'll type the password, and our super user is created. Now I'm going to refresh the page. Server is not running. Let's go back and write Python manage run server command. Let's refresh the page. I'm going to try login with that. So admin, password I type in, and there we go. This is our Django administrative site. Now that's looking really bad. To fix that, I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna change that to true. Let's go back and let's refresh. Now it comes like nice UI where you can see any users. So we only have one user, which we're gonna be adding more users using our auth app. There you go. We have groups there. Now let's create an endpoint which returns the live server response, and also it tells us what's the current time. For that, we're going to go to URL, and I'm going to add another path key, and we can say check server endpoint, and then that will take a view. So we're going to have to create a view there as well. So for that, I'm actually going to go to views.py file. If you haven't created that file yet, you're going to have to create one. Now we're going to import a few things from a REST framework. So instead of typing a lot, I'm just going to paste them here and then explain. So from REST framework decorators, we use API view because it's a function view. So I'll use API view. We're going to have to use response, REST framework status, and date and time to just generate the current date and time. Now I'm going to paste the code here. So here we're using API view. In the function, we're passing in that we're allowing get request. We have a function named index with the request object as a parameter. We create a date, and we use a date.now and string time. So it's like a formatter for a date. Basically, it's a pure Python happening here. We create another variable message, and we create this message saying server is live. Current time is. Now we get the current time from a date, and then we're using a response object from a REST framework, and we're using a couple other things from REST framework, API view, response, right? So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we return a response object which takes 2 arguments out of many, but we have a data equal to message, which would be this, plus the date, and then we can send the status back as 200. Okay, I'm gonna go and stop the server here, and I'm gonna restart the server. So restart the server by pressing 8000. That's it. And we're going to check out our server now. So on the web page, when I go to localhost 8000, it tells me, hey, I have a URL conf admin. Let me just zoom in a bit. And then we have a check server name index. So in the url.py file, we imported index view from index file. We're passing in this path. Second argument would be index, the view function, and the name is equal to index. Okay, let's go back, and I'm gonna try hitting that URL now. So I'll do check server, and now there's a problem. It says template does not exist at check server. Well, Django was showing us that URL, but for some reason there's an error, Django template loader error, so it could not find a REST framework API. Now the problem with that is if we go to settings.py file, to use any app in Django project, you need to define that in installed app array. So we added our auth app, but we forgot to add REST app. So remember, Rest Framework is just like an app. It's built like really good way that you can reuse it in any bad project. So yeah, so I'm gonna type rest_framework. Now it says REST framework auth doesn't, fine. I forget the comma here. I'll save the project, and now server is running back. We're gonna go and refresh the page, and there you go. We get the server check server endpoint running, and we get the Django Rest Framework UI there as well. Servers arrive at this date, this time. Cool. So we know that we can create APIs now. Now Django Rest Framework provides this UI to test your APIs, but we prefer using Postman to do this. So I'm going to open a Postman, which is like a free API testing tool, I would say. And here I've got a lot of URLs that I'm just gonna close them pretty much. That's the project that I was working on, guys. So I'm gonna create a request http://localhost 8000 check server. We're gonna send that request, and we say, hey, something is wrong here. Are we missing this closing slash? No, there is a problem. So http localhost, here we're missing localhost al, and there you go. We get server is live, current time, blah. Nice, so our one endpoint is working. Next, we're gonna work on authentication app, and I'm gonna show you how you can add authentication system very easily, and we can restrict basically some endpoints we want. So let's get started with that. First of all, I'm gonna be using third-party app to implement authentication system. For that, we're gonna go back to terminal, guys, and I'm gonna do pip install Djoser. Djoser is a package, and it's basically consists of some views that you can use to build the authentication system. Okay, that's all good. We're gonna add that into our project settings to be able to use that. So let's open settings file, which we already have, and I'm gonna go and add a comma here, and I'm going to add Djoser. Okay, so we injected the app called Djoser into that. Now we are going to go to URLs, and here I'm going to add another pod. So I'm going to type auth / and we can use include here. So we're going to have to import from Django URLs and include. We're going to use include function, and we're going to be using auth. For example, we have auth app.urls. Okay, so we're basically saying that, hey, can you go to auth app and find the file URLs, which is not there. We can just right click on that, create new files, and I'm going to rename that to Python file as well, .py. Okay, so here in the URL py, we're just saying, hey, go to this URL. Somebody goes to this URL. Can you go and include this auth URLs? Okay, auth app URLs. Let's save this file. Saving this, we're gonna go to urls.py file, And here I would like to paste some sort of code. So I don't want you to see me typing a lot, so I'll just paste the code here. Okay, so here we have auth app. We're importing Django URLs, import path and include. We import app auth and import views file. So here we are importing this view file. Okay. Next, we are configuring URL patterns like we did for our API URLs. Here we're saying if anything empty, go to Djoser URLs. Anything empty, include Djoser URL auth token as well. Now, auth token is basically another app that we need to add to our project. That comes from Restful Framework. So we're gonna have to fix that right now. So after the REST framework, I'm going to add this line of code. So basically it's a REST framework.auth token. So I'm saying there's another app called auth token. Can you go and grab that one as well for me? All right, that's done. Then we go back to our URLs. And here, I'm gonna get rid of this one. Don't need this. So we have a path, we're adding URLs and auth token URLs as well. So let's go and run the server and let's see what happens. Now, because we added this Djoser URL, we can see we need to run the migration. But for now, forget it. Let's go and test out auth. Localhost auth, and there you go. We have a user's URL, and then here saying authentication credential was not provided. Now, how do I log into this? So there's a documentation available for Djoser if you want to go ahead and read that. I can show you that. So Djoser docs. So here are basically endpoints available for you. The users will be like create user endpoint. If you want to, log in, then you're gonna go to token and click on create token, and this is where you can token/login. So I'm just gonna copy this and let's just paste it here. Now it's saying, nah, I don't like users here, so that's completely fine with me. All right, there you go. So here we can use the username and password to log in. Now what we need to do is we need to add some settings to our REST framework project. We're gonna go to settings, and I'm gonna add some REST framework settings after the database. I don't want you to see me typing, guys, because that would make this video very, very long. So I'm just gonna copy those settings here. So here we have a default authentication classes. We're saying, hey, go to basic auth, implement the basic auth, session auth, and the token authentication, which we are interested in. But for some reason, I'm just, I was using this on other projects, so I added this basic in session authentication as well. So default permission classes we can add is authenticated, which is going to make sure our, all the API endpoints are authenticated. That's one thing. And also, if you want to use a custom user model, you have to define that. So let me go and stop the server and run migration. So I'll do Python manage make migrations. Okay. So you're gonna have to create a migration for the auth app as well. So say Python manage make migration auth. No changes detected. So we just do Python manage migrate. All good. So it says I create auth token and auth token one. That's fine. Then we're gonna use auth app as well and create those migrations as well. Then we run a server. All right, let's go back and we have a server running. Now I want to show you how you can create users. For that, you're gonna go to auth users, and then here it's gonna ask you to log in. I don't know. Okay, that's fine. Now here we get to this URL, guys, and here you can create a new user account. So I'm gonna use an email address like let's just say testingdemo@demo.com, and we can use testing as username. I type a random password here and I click on post. Now it says, hey, it was accepted. We created a username, and then the ID is 2, and we have a testing demo email address. Now I would like to show you how you can log in. Let me open another tab here. So we'll do localhost 8000. We go to auth/token/login, and here I'm going to use the same email address to see the token. So I'm going to just copy this email address, and it's actually asking me for username here. So I'm going to have to type testing instead of email, and then password would be what I type. And there you go, you have the token generated for you, which you can use to send other, which you can make sure that people send this token with the request to be able to get to the other parts of your application. Another thing I would like to show you is a DB browser. So I'm using SQLite, guys, so I'm just going to be using this DB browser and open the database to show you what are the tables were generated from Django. So I'm just waiting for it to start. There you go. So I'm going to click on open database, and we're going to go to desktop API, and then this is the file. Now you can see we have all these tables generated automatically for us. So if I go to browse data, I go to this auth user, and there you go. The one admin that was a super user, we have a testing, which is like we just signed up through an API. Okay, cool. That's actually working now. So now how do I log out? Basically, you're going to have to copy this auth token and then click on log out. Now you're going to have to, I don't know what is this, but it says authentication credentials were not provided. Well, we're going to be using Postman to do that. So let's go to Postman, and here I have a logout. And I'm going to first log in actually. So I'm going to click on login, and then I won't go here. Here is basically a dynamic, email stuff. So I'm actually going to duplicate this folder. So I don't want to mess up these files. So I'll leave this, I'll get rid of this one, and I get rid of this one. Okay, we're going to be using these ones. So I'll rename this demo. Okay, for check server, our API is working. To create a user, we're gonna have to, change something into body. So we're not using reset password. We can give it first name and last name. We're not using. So this was like a custom model that I created, which I'll show you. So if I go send, and it says Ali Lee, this username was created. Okay, let's verify that here. So I'm gonna refresh, and there you go. We got that user signed up. Now if I try to log in, click on login, we go to body. So basically this email is not gonna get us to log in, because my all other project was expecting email for login instead of username. So if I send that, it's gonna say non-field error, unable to log in with the provided credentials. So it's expecting the username. Okay, so if I type testing here, that was a username. I'm gonna send, unable to log in with this provided credentials. Well, something's going on here. So if I look at authorization, I'm gonna make sure I have no auth selected. We have a testing there. Okay, that's email. So we're gonna change this to username field. Let's send. Now there you go. We go to token. I'm gonna copy this token. We go to current user. Click here, you get that current user. Now the way Postman works is by having these virtual variables or environment level variables. So when I use these, this means that I get the response back, I store those variables into these placeholders, and then we can use this. All right, so now the login user is not letting me log in with the user email. So I'm gonna change that. So for that, it's very, very easy. It's just one type of setting that you want to add to your framework, and it will do the job. So we're gonna add Djoser setting into our project. So I'm gonna change this back to email. Okay, we're gonna go to the code, and after the REST framework, we're gonna add Djoser setting there. And here we have a setting called login underscore field, and that field we can set that equal to email. Now when I save this and I try to log in, now it let me log in. On our REST Framework UI, if I go back, now instead of username, it's letting me log in with the email address. So you see, by just adding this line of code, it just lets you log in with email. Next, we would like to make our custom user model so we could see more fields here when we get to sign up page. So I don't want to just have a username or email or password only. I want to have a first name and last name here as well. Okay, so what we need to do for that is create our own model. So I go to the models.py file, and I'm just gonna paste the code here, guys, because you don't want to see me typing. It's just a fairly simple piece of line that we can use to build our custom user model. Now we're gonna create a model here, so I'm just gonna paste a model. It's basically a user class, and it's importing abstract user from Django cont auth model. Now we have two more fields, phone, and then we have email. We modified a bit. We can have another field if you want to. For example, if I say first underscore name, but the problem is the Django abstract user already have that first name and last name. The only field that we have here is phone number. Okay, now we are specifying required fields as username, phone, and first name and last name, and then we say username field is going to be email. So basically we're gonna sign up with email address instead of a username. Okay, then we just got this function which returns the email. So yeah, that's the user model, guys, and we are going to write a serializer for that. So we'll go to serializer.py file, and I don't see that file here. So I'm going to right click, and then we just type serializer.py file. And here again, I don't want you to see me typing a lot. So I'm just gonna paste the code here and then explain. That makes my life easier and for you guys as well, quicker. So here's a Django, here's a Djoser serializer. So we're using serializer from a Djoser because all our authentication system is, running from Djoser package, which is a third-party package, and it's amazing. Next, we have a user create serializer and user serializer. We're using user create serializer in our user create serializer class meta, and we're passing user create serializer.meta. And here we specify what is the model that we're trying to use. So we're importing models, every model from .models file, which is this one, and we're saying, hey, this user is our model. And here I'm specifying what are the fields that I would like to serialize. So I'll specify ID, email, username, password, and first name, last name, and phone. I'm gonna save this, and now we're gonna have to write write some configuration for our settings file. So first of all, I'm going to go to settings file, and we're gonna tell it what is our user model. So right above the Djoser, I'm gonna paste this line of code. So this setting, auth user model, we're gonna have to change this to auth app. So basically with this configuration, I'm telling it go to auth app and find a user model from that app. Okay, that's all good. Next, we're gonna have to define some user Djoser settings. So another thing that I would like to do in the sign up is letting people write the password again twice to make sure they know the password. So for that, there is a setting in the Djoser. All you have to do is just paste that here. So it's a user create underscore password retype is true. Then we can have a serializer from our Djoser serializer. So here's, I'm passing the serializer object, and I'm modifying create user and current user serializer. So here I'm saying, hey, go and find user create serializer, user create serializer. And this one, current user serializer, I'm just gonna get rid of that for now. And after this, we are going to run migration and start our server again. So let's go here, clear the terminal, and I'm going to use Python manage make migrations. Okay, there's a problem here. Auth-app.user got some issues, so we got let me find out. That should be fine. An error here, guys. So the best way to fix this error, just get rid of your migration, and also I'm just gonna get rid of the DB as well by right-clicking and deleting that. That causes sometimes an issue. So we go to terminal. I'm gonna expand the terminal a bit, and here I'm gonna type Python manage run server. Ooh, lots and lots of error. So error saying auth model user is looking for auth-app.user. So let's do auth-app.user. Here's a model. Well, it should be running, but still saying no modules name authentication. Now that was a code that came from my other project, so it might have authentication here. So REST framework authentication, that's fine. That's fine. All right, here user create. So here it has to be auth-app for serializer. Now let's save it. It says no module name auth-app.serializer. Okay, that's a serializer file. So we're gonna match the spelling here. So I'm gonna rename this file. So we say serializers. Now I'm gonna save the file, and there you go, problem solved. You see, you're gonna have to be very, very careful when building. Now it says 19 unapplied migration, so we're gonna have to change that. I'm gonna do Python manage make migrations, and then for auth-app, done. User model was created as you just seen. We use the Python manage migrate, and there you go, done. And then we do for auth-app as well. Okay, so I'm gonna use Python manage.py run server. There you go, server is running. I'm gonna go and refresh this page, and now there we go. We have a username, which is required. Obviously, you're gonna have to type that. We have a phone, we have a first name, a last name, email, password, and rename. Type password. All the validation already done for you. So I'll use testing as username, first name, I'll do my name, and then I use this email. I'll type a password, and let's click on post, and there you go, our user has been created. Let's verify that in the database. So that was the old file that was open, so we're gonna close this, click on open this one, go to auth and refresh, and there you go, we have a testing username. It has a first name always, Lisa, last name, date join, email, and the phone number as well. So you can see how you can use a custom user model to get them registered, and then you can make them log in as well. Now to log in, we're gonna go to Postman, and here I'm gonna send another request here, and that says unable to log in the provided credential. So let's see what's the problem here. So we got this email testing, and it should be getting me log in, but the problem is we not sure if it's basically letting us log in with username. Let's send it. Nope, doesn't work. Can you guess? Well, the guess is we're gonna verify that from here. So I'm gonna refresh that. You're gonna see another password field. All right, show me that. Nah, doesn't work. So the problem probably is, I'm gonna check from that. Okay, nah, doesn't work. So we might have a different username here. So I'm gonna copy this one, and let's just paste that here, and then we make it email and then send it, and there you go, we get the token here. So now we can see we are able to get the user authenticated. Now how do I stop other users to not hit my request unless they are authenticated? Let's do that next. Okay, so first of all, we are gonna go to serializer. We have one serializer here. Actually, I was thinking to create a model and then, use a serializer and then restrict that for authenticated user, but that's not do that. We just keep it very, very simple. So we're gonna create a view here, and I'm going to use some of the, permission classes. So I'm gonna paste the code here, guys. And then also we need a status from REST framework, and then also we need a response. So we imported Django shortcuts. Well, that was already there, but REST framework.d decorators, API view, permission classes. That's all good, guys. So let's create that function. So I'll do a def, and I'll just say restricted. Okay. Now inside this we use a request, and then we pass in quargs. That's not good. Okay. Now here I would just like to use return response. I'm actually gonna go to API and go here, actually views, and I'm just gonna copy this, or maybe just use this response and go back there and then just return that. But the message we can say only for logged in user. Let's get rid of date because it's going to cause an error, and let's just send this. Now how do I restrict this? First of all, let's make it an API view, and then we do get request. Okay, that's all good. Now we're gonna go to views. Now close this file, close the serializers, model settings. We go to URLs, and here I'm gonna add another URL. So do path, and I say restricted. We can do that, and then we're gonna use views dot, and we are going to use this restricted. Okay, and now I'm gonna go back to server, and I'm just gonna use restricted URL. Now I can see there's a restricted. I'm gonna copy that and paste it there, and there you go. It says only for logged in user. Well, restricted. I'm missing T here, guys, so let's fix that. Okay, that's really bad, me typing, so I'm just gonna add a T here. Let's refresh. Ooh, different. Let's copy restricted here, paste it, and there you go. Now this API endpoint is not restricted. It says only for logged in user. How do I make this not available for everybody? We go to views, and all we have to do is go here and add permission classes and add is authenticated. That's it. That's pretty much it is. It works for class-based views as well. This is a function-based views, but you can work with the class-based view as well. Now if I refresh, and it says, hey, authentication credentials were not provided. Oh, okay. So we go to Postman to test this out. Now we're in the login. I'm gonna click on login here. I'm gonna copy this. Okay. Then we're gonna change this to, for example, let's just say restricted. Okay. And I send the request, causing some issues, saying page not found. What is this? So we go check the copy. Actually this, I don't wanna use that, so like paste it, and let's send. It says only for logged in user. But now if I send the credentials, in the header. So here is the token. I'm gonna just paste the token here. Oh, not this one, guys. I'm gonna log in and I'm gonna copy this token because we just logged in with this user, and then we are going to go to current user, not log out, current user, and I'm gonna paste the token just after the word token. And now the request went. Before it says only for logged in user, because we are logged in actually, and it actually sent the token. So I'll click on that, only for logged in user there. So if I log out and then it passed, now if I go and send it again, it says invalid token. Okay, so it's not letting me get to the only for login user. So I go to and log in again, and then we go to current user, send. It says invalid token because we need to copy this new token and then send that new token for authentication. I just pasted that. I'm going to send it, and now it gets me only for logged in user. So you can see if your project is built on Angular or React, you can add this authentication to any API request. So that was a really good tutorial. I would say it took me quite a time to understand Django custom user model with Djoser because it does a lot of things for you. I would highly recommend, if you are creating an API, consider a REST framework. It's very easy, and I'll be creating a lot more videos about a REST framework in the few coming days. All right, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.